Well, Kellen Moore continues to be the hot name linked to the Saints, especially with everyone else backing out on New Orleans. But why should he do the same? Meanwhile, with the Eagles back and prepping for the Super Bowl, they got a big surprise in Brandon Graham returning and trying to suit up for the Chiefs. And why does history tell us that there's more than a good possibility that BG has a bigger impact than you think? Also, there's a couple added reasons that could mean bad news for the Chiefs, and Saquon Barkley is warning them. Plus, with Jalen Hurts and the offense having one of their best games against Washington, how can the offense carry that into the Big Easy? So let's talk about that, all the latest injury news, and everything else around the Birds. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? So let's start with the latest news on Kellen Moore since everyone continues to be talking about it, as Adam Schefter and others have dubbed the Eagles OC as the lead candidate to land the New Orleans Saints head coaching gig. Of course, no offense to Kellen, but being the frontrunner isn't that difficult when you've got so many head coaching candidates withdrawing their name from consideration. I mean, it's not like there's a whole lot of competition out there.
That's just a straight shooter with upper management written all over him. Ooh.
Maybe he does, and maybe he doesn't. Although when you take into account what Tom Pelissero reported of Mike McCarthy deciding to focus on the 2026 hiring cycle instead of going to New Orleans, and then the same for Joe Brady, who will remain the offensive coordinator with Buffalo for another season, it makes you question what the Saints have to offer Kellen and if it'd be a good enough pitch for him to make a move.
I think there's a lot, well, first of all, look, we got the best professional sports league in the world, right? And there's 32 jobs, and a lot of guys want to be head coach. So every job is attractive. They just are, including ours, and we have a lot of things to offer. We have a great city, great fan base. We have great ownership. We have had stability in our building for a long, long time, and I think we're viewed that way.
Let's just say the employee value prop needs a little bit of work there. I mean, he's not wrong, but it's not necessarily the greatest pitch in the world to be like, hey, we're essentially the same as all 31 other teams. Oh, by the way, Cliff Kingsbury was the third name to say no thanks, he's good, and will return to Washington for another year as Jaden Daniels' OC. So 3 different quality candidates just declining any interest kind of speaks for itself. Of course, it's not just the awful sales pitch from Mickey Loomis that's making guys pass on the position. Since in case you're not as up on the details, the Big Easy team did this to themselves, and will be in a ridiculous cap hell, or basically already are right now, with an estimated negative $54 million in cap space. Thanks to the kicking the can down the road approach and deferring salary cap hits to keep their championship window open as long as possible. Granted, that did help Drew Brees continue to make the postseason for a while, but now the NFL's come to collect.
This empire of time to pay up.
Still, even with all that being said, and yes, it's accurate, the Saints GM is technically somewhat right. I mean, it is an NFL coaching job. Yet personally, I think Kellen would be smarter to wait this cycle out and stick with Philly for one more season. I know, I get it, I'm biased, but when you think about the insane amount of weapons on this roster, you figure he'll have an opportunity to get looks next season and potentially have a better situation to walk into then. By the way, even though I'm saying that, I do realize the perfect counter-argument to that is what happened with Bobby Slowick and him getting fired from Houston, because the dude was one of the hottest head coaching candidates last season and at the start of this season. But the Texans' offense ended up resulting in a mess a lot of the year, which ultimately resulted in him getting fired. Still, I'm a lot more confident in this Eagles unit that wouldn't happen to Kellen, but I get the thought. Plus, Kellen only makes $2.5 million per year as an OC. And I say only, but when you think about the fact that he could get a multi-year deal guaranteed at $8 to $12 million per year, I totally understand the gig and the reason for going for a head coaching job. Also, just a little nugget to throw in here because some people were asking me about Vic Fangio and if there's any concern for him leaving, but no, there is no concern at all. Because Fangio stated multiple times that Philly was his dream destination and he's not interested in a head coaching job. And let's just say kudos to Jeffrey Lurie because it's another reason why he's the best owner in the NFL because he's not afraid to pay coaches to get the best. And as a reminder, coaching salaries don't affect the salary cap, so with Fangio being the highest paid assistant coach at $4.5 million per year, that was a big commitment. Heck, that's almost in line with what Packers head coach Matt LaFleur makes at $5 million and is equal to Cincinnati's Zack Taylor. And then even more than that was what Mike McCarthy made. Anyway, obviously good news there, and as for Kellen, I'm not as concerned, I'll talk about this a little bit, but not as concerned about these short-term ramifications. Again, the Saints cannot make a hire, or at least they're not supposed to, until after the Super Bowl. Yes, technically the Cardinals did that before the Super Bowl with JG, except the fact that they got caught and lost a draft pick is hopefully enough to deter New Orleans from doing anything illegal.
The real question is this: was all this legal? Absolutely not.
I don't know, maybe I'm crazy to think that won't happen, but honestly, the biggest concern for me is the long-term ramifications like I talked about for Jalen and the offense. After all, here you would have Jalen going on his 12th play caller in his last 10 years playing football dating back to high school. Now sure, obviously Hurts has proven he can make do with whoever, but even he said multiple times that he'd like to have consistency to be able to build something and make it his own. Plus, if Kellen does go, that means Jalen's QB coach and Doug Nussmeier is most likely gone as well. I mean, come on, Doug's son Garrett is the starting quarterback at LSU, so to be in Louisiana and closer to games is probably enticing enough before adding in a promotion and a salary bump. Like, I get it, yes, you could argue you'd watch him on television, but honestly, there's nothing better than watching games in person. Which is why I use SeatGeek, who's sponsoring today's video, and not only did they help me get to the NFC Championship game this year, but they're helping you get to the Super Bowl thanks to my special hookup of $250 off when you use code Philly250. Like I said, it was unreal getting to see the Birds in the NFC Championship game at the Link, but getting to see them in New Orleans would just be next level. So for those of you thinking about going, take out the phone, open up the app, and then use code Philly250 to add to your account. And look, they make it super easy to sort by event, put the tickets all in one place, and the best deals come up first. Plus, each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, with it being super easy to find thanks to the green dots. Also, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. So there you go. Use code Philly250 to get $250 off Super Bowl tickets at SeatGeek. Again, that's $250 off Super Bowl tickets when you use code Philly250, and you can do that by downloading the app or just click the link in the description. Alright, I'm convinced that the Eagles can take care of business and get that ring if they play anything close to like they did against Washington. Obviously, give credit to the defense, but it was Kellen Moore's best game in a long time. Which, in case you're curious why that was, shout out to Johnny Page, who summed it up best, saying the run game and passing game were linked, with the Birds deciding to use a lot of RPOs for Jalen, using the Commies' aggressiveness to stop Saquon against them, and getting Jalen on the move with rollouts. For example, this one here isn't a wild play call, but just a mobile quarterback in a dominant ground game made more than enough of second guessing to get AJ open and then pick up the first down. And then later, Kellen continued to dial up multiple options for Jalen to see one side of the field while still confusing the defense. Which, I mean, at that point, you had the Commies completely guessing, so it made perfect sense to throw in the sweeps, which paid off big time. So again, let's just say hopefully we continue to see this type of offense. Now, there was still the traditional, just take advantage of your one-on-one matchups, and AJ was doing what he does and winning them. But like I said, if Philly executes at this level, there's nothing that Kansas City can do to stop them. Just don't get cute, don't get stagnant, too predictable, anything like that. And not that the offense was the issue in that last Super Bowl, but Nick Sirianni said he still learned from that first Super Bowl appearance.
We have a plan. We're still sorting through some other things of it. And so, still, I mean, a big chunk of it is ready to go. And so I won't share everything with you guys, but we'll practice. We'll be on the field. We'll be installing things. To give you a percentage or a time, still some of that stuff's up in the air. But we have notes that we're going through and that we've been going through, couple tweaks here and there of what we'll do differently, a couple things that will stay the same. But of course, like any time you go through any situation like that, you take notes like that and you try to get better from each circumstance you go through.
I'm confident it's going to be okay. Actually, I'm a lot more than just confident because this team is much more balanced than in 22 and has a much better running game. I mean, we all remember the Birds couldn't get anything going on the ground in the last Super Bowl, with a moment clearly being way too big for Miles Sanders, who just looked like a deer in headlights as he compiled a stat line of 7 carries for 16 yards and 2 fumbles. Let's just say I think Saquon should be able to top those totals just a bit.
But having that balance even opened up more. Shoot, you put up over 60.
Exactly, damn near 60. So whoever plays us next, good luck.
Let's go. I love the confidence, but you're right, we still cannot overlook KC because they've proven to up their level of play when they need to. Just like several people pointed out last year when they held Christian McCaffrey in check despite the unreal season he was having up to that point. Plus, the Chiefs haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in their last 18 playoff games. Although again, this time it feels like a different story. For one, Kansas City's defense is ranked 21st in the NFL since Week 8. And shout out to Anthony DeBona for this stat, but Joe Mixon only averaged 4.1 yards per carry during the regular season. Yet when the Texans played the Chiefs in the playoffs, Mixon totaled 88 yards on 18 carries, good for 4.9 yards per carry. Oh, but that's not all, because then for James Cook, he averaged 4.9 yards per carry on the season, but ran all over KC with 85 yards on 13 carries for 2 rushing touchdowns in the AFC Championship game. So, knowing what Saquon can do and the fact that he's hit 100-plus yards in all 3 postseason games this season makes me pretty confident he can get that done in New Orleans. How about you guys, though? I mean, after seeing Kansas City play 2 playoff games, what are the type of numbers you're expecting from Saquon? Also, while you're letting me know that, make sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be giving away a signed Saquon Barkley helmet to one lucky subscriber during my Friday night live stream. Now, when it comes to the defense, I've been seeing this narrative about Patrick Mahomes having Vic Fangio's number, and maybe so because Mahomes is a perfect 8-0 in games against Fangio as either a head coach or defensive coordinator. However, this is why you got to dig further into the numbers. Because Fangio's offenses in those 8 games against Mahomes averaged 11.9 points per game. Seriously, you tell me what team's going to win against a good quarterback scoring 11 points. By the way, in those 8 games, Fangio's quarterbacks threw 8 interceptions and the Chiefs scored 6 touchdowns via the defense or special teams. And going a step further, 2 of Mahomes' 9 worst games have actually come against Fangio based on EPA or efficiency. Now yes, it's not like Vic's defenses were lights out, but when you couple that along with the fact that he has the best defensive unit he's ever coached against Mahomes, there's a lot of reasons for optimism.
I'm not even thinking about rookies, who's a rookie, who's not, because they're playing like vets.
They absolutely have been, and honestly, I'm not even that much concerned about, hey, how are they going to play in the Super Bowl? It's more so just the emotions, and not even just the rookies. I'll say the young guys in general, guys who have not been there before. Keep your emotions in check because that can pay huge dividends one way or the other against the Chiefs. After all, when in doubt, the refs are going to award the Chiefs a first down. Or maybe in the case of Buffalo, not award a first down. I mean, there have been some pretty egregious calls for Kansas City up to this point. Yet even with all that, the Bills had an opportunity to make a play and couldn't come up with it. Still, I know it's easier said than done, but to get up early and make sure this thing isn't decided by a single possession is key.
There have been 125 drives in the NFL's postseason where it was at least the fourth quarter, and there was under a minute to play, and the team on offense trailed by 7 points or fewer at the start. These are your standard clutch moments for a football team, the do-or-die drives that win and lose critical games. Out of those 125 drives, only 40% of the time did the team on offense pull off the magic trick to get the points they needed. In other words, a touchdown or a field goal to either win the game or tie the game and send it to overtime.
Yep.
Some of these quarterbacks are really good at it, such as Tom Brady, who was 5 for 11 in those situations in the postseason, 46%. Or Drew Brees, who was 3 for 6 in his playoff career, 50%. Only one player is perfect.
Oh my
and that's
God.
Patrick Mahomes,
What?
who was 7 for 7 in those situations.
I don't care who you are, that is a crazy conversion rate. Of course, I'll have more matchups and breakdowns as we get closer to the big game, but let's just say Travis Kelce is the key to stop, especially after how we saw Washington take advantage of C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship in coverage against Zach Ertz. However, when it comes to defensive updates and impacts for the Birds, they're getting a bigger boost than you might expect after Brandon Graham's practice window was opened. Of course, remember, that gives him 6 practices to get right before they officially have to make a decision and add him to the roster. Also, I mentioned this on the live stream, but just for those that may have missed it, this is a really positive sign. I mean, for one, they're not going to activate the practice window unless they think there's a very good possibility that BG can play. And then 2, Fangio's not about giving just token rewards saying, hey, BG, just come play. Fangio's going to have all the guys, all hands on deck. So you got to anticipate that BG has a bigger role to play in this one. And then really the third part is just the emotional morale and chemistry and everything else. I mean, having BG suited up on the field with the players is massive. At the same time, he's definitely going to get tested if he suits up and plays. Yet realistically, you're probably only asking for a handful of snaps from him at best. And knowing that it's most likely 55's last time wearing the midnight green, you know he's going to give his all and leave everything on the line. Oh, one more thing for anyone doubting that BG could make a significant impact in limited usage. So Ray Lewis tore his triceps back in 2012 and ended up playing in the Super Bowl just 12 weeks after that injury. And it's also not like he didn't do anything in that one either, since the dude had literally the second highest amount of tackles for Baltimore when they beat the 49ers. I mean, we saw the same thing from Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens fighting through injuries in the NFC Championship game. Because come on, at this point in the season, everybody's willing to put it all on the line because this group's a brotherhood.
This moment right here, bro, ain't everybody, bro. You gotta be grown-ass men to go out there and fight with your brothers, bro. For the ones that were here 2 years ago, bro, y'all know how this gonna be, bro. For the ones that just got here, bro, get ready, bro. This gonna go down, bro.
They go up.
All that moral victory, bro, that's the window now, bro. We compete for a championship. I talk a lot of because I know I trust my brothers to back me up. I'm gonna back that with y'all. Let's go out there and do this, bro. Eagles on 3, 1, 2, 3. Eagles. Okay. I like that. I like that.
How great is that, man? This unit is clearly playing for each other. Now, it's still important to get that rest beforehand, and that's what several Eagles are doing at practice. Like Moro Ojomo, who sat out of Thursday's practice dealing with his shoulder, and DeVonta Smith, who the Birds are being cautious with due to a hamstring. Plus, A.J. Brown got some more rest, and Kenny Gainwell is still in the concussion protocol. As well as Dallas Goedert, who didn't participate much at practice since he's getting treatment on his ankle, but he was on a side field getting in a little bit of work. And then, as we expected, there's BG getting in practice with the brace on. Although for those asking about Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, they missed another practice according to several reporters. But again, let's not freak out. That was expected, not anything to be concerned about. Both guys said they'll be for sure playing in the Super Bowl. And yes, obviously, if any of that changes, we will be the first to go live and let you guys know. For now, though, do me a favor. Hit that like button, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and then let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments. I'm going to be hanging out in the chat. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.